Greetings, Yen.
Good thing you're here. The frostbite was starting to set in.
Hey everybody, and welcome.
Had a matter to tend to.
A matter that brooked no delay, I presume. What was it? A NECA contract?
Something like that. Can we go?
Maybe you're already here with me in your 30s, or maybe you're in your teens or 20s and you're curious about what awaits you as you get older. Now, I won't pretend that this video will speak to everyone's perspective. For example, lots of people in their 30s don't have kids, so some of this will probably fall pretty flat with those folks. Others have jobs, but not really what you might call a serious career. But even so, the overarching framework for balancing things in your life will be the same. In sum, if you've got a pretty good job, and you're fortunate enough not to have to worry about finances or health concerns on a day-to-day basis, how you spend your time immediately and prominently becomes your biggest question. If you're like me, and you're already in your 30s, you might feel like you missed one of the major life routes that younger people and people with fewer commitments have, and that's playing games for a living, whether as a professionally competitive player, a streamer, and or a YouTuber. On the other hand, for the younger people out there, your competition for internet video fame will be fierce. The good news for the rest of you who are still interested in a more quote-unquote traditional career is that if your peers are really all trying to make it as YouTube stars, the supply of labor in more traditional career paths will be lower, leaving you relatively more leverage than many of us older people had coming up. This might make it easier for you to secure traditional jobs, get paid better, or both. So let's say you prefer the money, lifestyle, or predictability of a traditional career. How does that play into your gaming hobby? Like many others, I've gone through phases where I game a ton and periods where I didn't even touch games. Late in high school when I could drive, I liked to get out of my house, and I also played sports, and I was also getting ready to graduate and go to college. And then when I started college, I barely even touched games either. There were just too many different things to do and see. But then once the novelty of college wore off sometime during my sophomore year, I went ahead and got a 360 and played Oblivion till my fingers bled.
Stop! You violated the law.
In any given day, if you want to be both good at your job and maintain your sanity and some semblance of health, you want to eat and sleep. So there goes somewhere between 8 and 10 hours per day or so, especially if you make your food rather than buying pre-packaged crap. Pre-packaged crap. Throw in work responsibilities for a traditional 8 or 9 to 5, and you'll still have a solid 3 to 5 hours per day to game, which is great. Well, throw in a spouse or a significant other, and if your significant other isn't a gamer, that'll take away another big slice of time as you do things like go to orchards to pick apples. If your significant other is also a gamer, consider yourself very lucky. But even in the case where your significant other isn't a gamer, hopefully he or she will be cool with you doing your own thing a lot of the time. Even so, this time will absolutely pale in comparison to the time and attention you will be paying to your kids when they come along. The bad news is that you will definitely have to learn how to control your temptations to sneak away and get some gaming time in. The good news is that, hopefully for the vast majority of you, taking responsibility for and getting to know your kids will be basically the most fulfilling part of your entire life. But all this leads me to the central point of this video, which is that video games have a way of immersing us so deeply that it takes considerable effort to shift our mindset back to what really matters. And as an actual adult, I can't reiterate this enough. It's not just about you anymore. My kids are still very young, but knowing how quickly I lost interest in hanging out with my parents once I hit 8 or so, it's absolutely crucial for their development and for your long-term life satisfaction for you to spend time with them while you still can. I am curious about my kids when they're a bit older, though, so maybe we'll be able to game together, which would be awesome. For any watchers out there with older kids, has that been a good experience for you? The decline in couch co-op does worry me some, because when I was growing up in the 90s, le 90s kid, couch co-op was, or just any local multiplayer really, was all the rage. But as online multiplayer has gotten so popular, local multiplayer has really died off, and that's just a great way to bond with other people. But I guess at least to an extent, Nintendo still seems to care about that market. So when they're a little bit older, I think I'll look into that some. For now, I'm on a major PC gaming kick, with the exception of sports games, which are still way better on the couch and with a controller in hand. Going back to my time balancing framework, though, I feel pulled between two poles of the gaming globe. On one hand, as with the clips playing in the background here, single-player games are great for two major reasons. First, you can pause and save at just about any point. When you think your kids might wake up from a nap, or your spouse is in a bad mood, you want the ability to stop the game at a moment's notice and not lose any progress. Of course, sometimes you do want that in terms of giving yourself a challenge, like with Fallout 4 Hardcore mode. Second, single-player games like The Witcher are great for unwinding and enjoying a story. When you have stress from work, maybe you've got a long commute, food to buy, prepare, and serve, as well as giving your spouse or significant other and the kids the attention they deserve and they need, you often just want to escape for a bit into a story-based game. But if you're anything like me, one of the reasons you love gaming is because you get to embrace a competitive side of yourself that, frankly, is hard to replicate in the real world. You don't have to go easy on the guy on the other side of the game like you do when you play with your kids. At work, you basically have to walk on eggshells all the time so you don't piss anybody off.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, there are adult sports leagues and things like that. But you can't just jump in and out of those things from a time commitment perspective, and of course our bodies ain't what they used to be. So that's why I find myself continually drawn back to multiplayer games like Rainbow Six Siege. It does help that Siege itself is such a great game, with really in-depth destruction mechanics, as well as solid gunplay, and in my opinion, underappreciated art direction. I mean, yeah, it's still buggy as hell, but it's awesome. But multiplayer games present a bit of a conundrum for gamers like me with a career and young kids. And ultimately, that conundrum comes down to gaming's relationship with stress. For those of you who didn't take Psych 101 or stress management techniques, you might not be aware that stress comes in two flavors, which are usually considered positive and negative stress, more scientifically called eustress or good stress, and distress or bad stress. I'm sure everyone's familiar with distress. And that's what we usually think about when we talk about stress. What doesn't get appreciated as much is eustress, or good stress. If you're the kind of person who flourishes with a time crunch, then you're experiencing eustress. If you're the kind of person who melts under the pressure of a time crunch, you're experiencing distress. And the more distressed you feel, the worse off you are, both in the short run and the long run. Generally speaking, I do pretty well at the time and pressure crunch, especially when I have the skills to flourish. But what multiplayer games like Siege do is put your skills to the test in stressful situations. If you look at my stats to Siege, you'll see that I'm probably overall a mediocre player. I pretty much only solo queue, and the highest rank I've gotten is Gold 1, and this season has been a complete disaster for me. That said, I'm still able to enjoy the game because I keep the proper perspective and just let myself enjoy the moments where I perform well, like in this clip. Now, I'm no stranger to the occasional rage death, but if we don't experience the lows, then we can't really experience the highs either. It may seem silly, but in cases like this, where I go up against some plats and come away with a 3-clutch win, I mean, yeah, it's casual, but still, it can put me in the best possible mindset for the rest of my night or weekend.
Wait for it.
Op 4 has placed a diffuser near a bomb. Destroy it. Op 4 last stop standing. One friendly operator remaining.
You got it closer. Fuse.
Diffuser located. Disable it. Bomb defusing device is disabled. Mission successful.
Whew. Woo. What you didn't see in that clip was that it was pretty much the only full match I was able to play that day, which is especially sad considering that casual matches rarely go over 30 minutes. Sometimes, when I have the house to myself and take a day off of work, I can really get in some solid ranked sessions and sweat a little bit. But otherwise, my advice to other career-oriented parents who have young kids or would like to soon, and who still have that competitive itch, is to constantly, and I mean constantly, remind yourself that it's not just about you anymore. If you're in your 30s, then I have some bad news for you. You'll never be a professional gamer. But hey, maybe you're like me, and you think this YouTube thing is pretty cool. If so, let's get a conversation going. Anyways, till next time, thanks for sticking it out this long, and don't forget to get dinner started.